This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast. It is time for the Monday Night Raw review here on Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023. We've got a lot to cover tonight. The draft is now over. We've got full results, some surprises, others not really a surprise. As I spoke with Anthony DeMarco last night, I am very surprised about the Seth Rollins to Monday Night Raw deal instead of going to SmackDown. But we got, for the first time in a long time, a Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins interaction on Raw that I think was a bit of a tease of what could come over the next year and some kind of maybe massive trade that is done. And I'm okay with trades. That they happen in sports all the time. If something like that were to happen, or if Seth won the Rumble and then was able to face Roman and choose the champion he wanted to face at WrestleMania, that's really the only way that we're going to get Roman and Seth. It's been too damn long. So outside of that, though, I thought it was a really solid show as we go into Backlash in Puerto Rico this Saturday night. A lot of storylines moving forward, a lot of new faces that are about to show up on Monday night. And a week from last night, we're going to have a very different Monday Night Raw. It's not a total upheaval of the current roster on Raw, but you're adding a lot of new faces, which creates new rivalries. You're adding people from SmackDown to Raw and vice versa. So the things are certainly shaken up in a big way. And I think that it's going to benefit Monday Night Raw even more than SmackDown, because now we're going to be able to have, starting at Night of Champions anyway, about a month's time, we're going to be able to have and call Raw having a champion. We're going to be able to say Raw has a World Heavyweight Champion. And that's something I know a lot of fans, including myself, have been really, really advocating for. And we're going to get it. And it's just encouraging to see something like this take place. And it means that WWE does value the opinions of fans. And while they don't grant every wish we have, this is a big one. This is a big one that ultimately, really, it's not just for us. It's also in their own best interest, you know? Because, and for the morale at Raw, because if I was drafted to Raw and I'm a dude, I would be like, okay, cool. We got the US title, or we got the tag titles we can compete for, but we don't have, that top belt. Unfortunately, that is strangled by Mr. Roman Reigns, but that's not the case now. So that's a huge deal. Now, before we get started, guys, and again, we've got a lot to get to. A couple of things. We have some new patrons that I'd like to welcome. Chandler S., welcome to the family. I know that you just joined us over the last day or so welcome. Josh F., you have been supporting the show for a little while now, and I appreciate your support. So Josh, thank you so much. And I think I already mentioned Lachlan, but if I didn't, well, thank you. All right, so that is those are our latest patrons, and much appreciated to them, guys. I'm tired tonight. I know I can't really talk, but that is much appreciated. And if you want to join them and everyone else on Discord, which there's a little like VIP area, if you will, for those that join on Patreon. There's a little Discord chat that's exclusive to those on Patreon. So you can join us at patreon.com/WWE Podcast, or you can go to Apple and get a 1-week free trial, or of course our website, WWEpodcast.com. And one last thing I'll say before I get going. We finally have merch. If you're interested, we have merch on the store, or on our website. There's now a store link right on the main page. It is right where it says "Welcome to the WWE Podcast," and then right underneath, it has merch store now open. And you click on the WWE Podcast store, and we've got basic stuff right now. We've got can coolers, koozies, mugs, iPhone cases, T-shirts, tumblers, sweatshirts, hats, jersey, tank tops. And if you guys are interested in supporting the show that way as well and getting a little bit of something to wear or show off or use, right? It's not just novelty. You can actually use these things. Who doesn't need an iPhone case right now, right? Or a mug for your coffee, or a koozie for that alcoholic beverage after work. Not a bad place to go. That store is, again, located on our website, www.podcast.com, and you'll see the link where it says that we now have a merch store. It's right on the main page, and it's also a little bit further down. There's 2 places you can go where it says Shop Now or WWE Podcast Store. Check it out if you want to help out the show and get a little piece of something you can use, right? All right. Let's move on. Let's get to Monday Night Raw, and let's talk about the draft picks. Number 1, Rhea Ripley, as it should have been. Rhea Ripley makes total sense. You can hear Anthony and I break this down last night because as the results were going on, we were recording a show. So we did talk about this a little bit, but Rhea Ripley going to Raw, joining the Judgment Day. No point in breaking up the Judgment Day, and also no point in having them, or not no point, but it doesn't make sense to have them on the same show as the Bloodline. You don't want 2 massive heel factions cannibalizing one another, so it makes sense that they're on separate shows. And honestly, the Judgment Day has felt like they belong on Raw. But Rhea Ripley and the Judgment Day both drafted to Raw. Austin Theory goes to SmackDown as expected, with the IC title coming to Raw, and Gunther and Imperium. Again, Seth Rollins staying on Raw. We'll get there. I'll talk about that in a little bit with Paul Heyman. Charlotte Flair staying on SmackDown seems to make sense to me. KO and Sammy staying on Raw. This is weird to me because they're the tag team, the undisputed tag team champions. They're not just the Raw or SmackDown. They're undisputed, which means they have both championships. And it was very clear that whoever won the tag team championships would be able to float between brands when they won them. So does the draft now supersede the stipulation that was in place when the tag team championship match took place? Because if that's the case, then what is SmackDown going to do? Have more tag team champions and add another tag team championship? I still believe that the undisputed tag team champions should be able to float because they're welcome on both shows. They can interact and have great matches with anybody on both shows. It just makes sense. We'll see if that continues to evolve or if they stay true to, nope, the undisputed tag team championships are staying on Raw, and the only way they'll transfer to SmackDown is if there's a rule in place where, oh yeah, that's right, undisputed tag team champions can float, or there's a trade or something like that. But right now it seems kind of weird. SmackDown, the Usos go to SmackDown, so the Bloodline stays intact. Makes sense there. Latino World Order, L.W.O, stay on SmackDown, or go to SmackDown rather. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez go to Raw. Asuka goes to SmackDown. New Day go to Raw. Let's see. The Brawling Brutes, SmackDown. Trish Stratus goes to Raw. Interesting to see Trish drafted. That was weird. Not unweird in the sense it did make sense, but just weird to see Trish Stratus in 2023 being a draft pick. Strange. Karrion Kross goes to SmackDown. Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey go to Raw. And what kind of world is it in which Ronda Rousey's in, the 4th round of the draft and is below the L.W.O? I mean, no disrespect to the L.W.O, but they were just reformed. And the Brawling Brutes, Ronda Rousey has fallen that far? I mean, it's a little bit striking, but at least this. Ronda and Becky are on the same show. So my push to have a one-on-one with Becky and Ronda, finally, after 5 years, may come to pass. I think that is do I dare say a certainty now? LA Knight stays on SmackDown. I think he could have honestly gone to either brand. The dude is a star, and he hasn't even gotten on a winning streak yet. Braun Strowman and Ricochet go to Raw. Shotzi, SmackDown. Bronson Reed, Raw. Pretty Deadly, SmackDown, so another NXT call-up. Alpha Academy go to Raw. Rick Boogs to SmackDown. Katana Chance and Caden Carter, that's how you pronounce it, JBL, go to Raw. Cameron Grimes from NXT goes to SmackDown. So, it's, you could pick apart every single pick and say, oh, they should have done this or this or this. It's all about matchups. That's all this is WWE looking forward. This is not easy to do. because if you're going to create a draft, a mock draft, which is what this is, you really have to think forward into the future and go, we want this matchup, this matchup, this matchup, and they got to be on the same brand. And that's why you see a lot of correction down the line or just disregard for the rules, because either they didn't think that someone would get over and they did, and now there's a bigger matchup for that person on another brand that they can't get to, so then they just disregard the rules, which is a lot of times why they do what they do. But if you're going to stick to the rules, it requires a lot of forward thinking. And it's not easy because sometimes you don't know who's going to get over, what matches could happen, what injuries could possibly happen. There's a lot of variables. So it's not easy to put this together, and I don't envy the people that had to do this. But overall, it is a bit kind of mind-numbing to think about how this is all put together and who's behind those closed doors again. And why do we have different people coming out for every single pick? I didn't hate it. I mean, seeing HBK is fun. Seeing Teddy Long is always fun. JBL, Molly Holly, that was a surprise. I mean, it was kind of like a Legends night where everyone got a cameo. And they just it was fun. If you're in attendance, this is a fun show because you get to see people that you never thought you'd see ever again and may never see ever again in a cameo appearance. And RVD, boy, RVD's still over, isn't he? If RVD could compete and he was about 10 years younger, we may be talking, maybe a quick championship run, but I mean, obviously he's in no condition, but boy, is he still over. And obviously HBK and Triple H coming out and all that. So it's kind of it's a nostalgic night when it's not really meant to be. And it sometimes does take the focus off the draft, but still fun. Anyway. Okay. So that is, those were the full list of picks. Of course, you can look at all of the picks, all the complete draft rule or draft selections on WWE's website. The full results are there. Brock Lesnar was also declared a free agent. That's to be expected. He should be a free agent. Okay. I mean, you wouldn't want to restrict Brock to a single brand because he's too big of an asset. And I don't mean in the future, just, not that they're ever going to build around him, but if you ever want to create a matchup with somebody, then Brock Lesnar can really pick from anyone, or either roster, and WWE doesn't have to worry about handcuffing themselves of, oh crap, he's drafted to Raw, what are we going to do? It makes sense that Brock is above the draft, and it's kind of a typical Brock Lesnar move. No problem there. So I have no issue with that, and I know that there's other free agents out there that WWE does on the back end, and you know what? There's going to be changes to this before things are finalized on Monday. You can bet your ass that on Twitter or on their website or somewhere in a footnote, they're going to have kind of those supplemental picks, or they're going to announce like small trades that were done or whatever, kind of fine-tuning the draft, fine-tuning the rosters before they are carved into stone starting next Monday night. So just expect that to happen. It's going to be interesting to see what WWE does, though, when we don't have a member of the bloodline on Raw to fill the main event spot. I know you have Seth, you have Cody, and they're two big baby faces, the two biggest baby faces on the roster. And, you can't have them competing with one another because it's not the time to turn either of them heel. So what do you do? When you don't have Uso or rather Solo or Jimmy or Jay or Paul Heyman, like, what do you do? The Bloodline has been main eventing both shows for a long time now, and that doesn't even include Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns hasn't been on the show in a month. Roman Reigns hasn't been on WWE TV in a month. So certainly they have their work cut out for them when they cannot pull from the Bloodline well to have a match on Monday Night Raw anyway. All right, well, let's dive into a little bit more of the Monday Night Raw results here. We got Damage Control defeating Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Bayley pinned Morgan. The win here maybe cements a title shot for Damage Control, and that makes sense because they're a heel tag team. But does anyone at this point even have any vested feelings in Raquel, Liv, or Damage Control? I think we all know the answer to that. It's just the teams are cold, ice cold. I mean, I know you have Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey out there, but they haven't been on TV in a month since WrestleMania, and they won the match. So, I don't know. I would imagine that the women's division, tag team division, is going to maybe get a little bit more focus with the draft. Let's hope. But, at the same time, I think we're all done with Damage Control. Everybody's ready for that group to just dissolve. All right. Braun Strowman and Ricochet take out Alpha Academy when Ricochet hit Gable with a swanton off Strowman's shoulders. Cool. I have no problem with that. Alpha Academy, well, I do have a problem with it in the fact that Alpha Academy should at some point get a victory before their careers are over. Now, Alpha Academy is sorely underutilized, and I don't mean disrespectfully. They're not getting squashed per se, but there are some times where they don't really have competitive matches. They are relatively short at times, and both have something to bring, especially Chad Gable. And Braun Strowman and Ricochet, do I feel the chemistry there? I mean, it's better than Braun Strowman chasing a championship, okay? So there's that. And he hasn't been in a solidified tag team like this. I don't want to say, I want to say ever, but somebody out there will prove me wrong. So I'm going to say it's been a long time since Braun Strowman's been in a tag team. So, one thing I'll say, and I said this about the finish of Braun Strowman and Ricochet that they came up with Chad doing a swanton off Strowman's shoulders. It's scary. And the way I mean it's scary is collarbones are among the easiest bones to break in the body. I don't care how big you are, how much muscle you have. A collarbone is a collarbone, and there is not much I forget the pounds of pressure you need in order to break a collarbone. It's not a lot, and certainly is significantly less than the weight of an average human being. So that said, at some point, Braun Strowman, I think, is going to break a collarbone. I mean, with Ricochet using him as a platform, oof. I mean, I wouldn't want someone doing this with me. I'll say that. All right. Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar. So we had Adam Pearce backstage petitioning both Brock and Cody to keep the peace tonight. They're both in the same building. They want to keep the peace. He wants to have it wait till Backlash. And we all knew that wasn't going to happen. We had Lesnar interrupt the fourth round of the draft. That's when Cody Rhodes' music hit after Adam Pearce asked Brock Lesnar to leave. Brock said it's going to take a hell of a lot more men. They had about 25 security guards out there. And that's when Cody Rhodes hit Brock Lesnar from behind and got one shot in before security broke up the brawl. And once again, we had Cowboy Brock not attempt to attack Cody, just kind of retreated up the ramp as security was holding back Cody. So Brock Lesnar getting a decent heel reaction, although his entrance gets a pop only because I think people realize the enormity of this star in front of you and that you don't see Brock Lesnar very often. So I think people pop for that. But once the story got going and Cody interfered, I mean, people started to boo Brock, which is a good sign because that's the reaction you're after. But so I had no problem with this segment. It gave you just a quick tease of what you want to see, which is Cody beat Brock Lesnar. And we didn't get that, or didn't get a full-fledged brawl. It was just, once again, Brock taking one shot, one bump, and leaving. At some point, somebody should not just calculate Brock's pay per minute, but also his pay per bump. I mean, there's got to be somebody out there who has a math equation of how much money Brock is making per bump. Like, how much money did Brock make last night for taking a single bump? I mean, it's got to be like $100,000 now. I don't know. All right. So now I was for this segment. Cody did a nice job showing emotion. We didn't have to hear a 10, 15 minute spiel from, Mr. Eloquent Speaker. Okay. Which I don't need to hear him every week. But the only problem I have with this is exactly my fear that came to pass. And that is the total lack of an explanation from Brock. We got none. And I know many of you out there are like, well, it's got to be because of this or it's this. And the announcers came up with theories and Cody came up with a theory. Again, I knew that once we already got these working theories and hypotheses, that was enough from WWE's perspective to the fans of, well, it's probably one of these things. It's got to be, right? I'm Brock didn't like change, or he was jealous of my spot at WrestleMania, which, again, none of that is consistent with Brock's character at all over the last how many years he's been in WWE, since 2002. I know he took a break, but let's just for argument's sake say he's been with WWE for 20 years. And yeah, so none of those made sense. And I was just holding out just a shred of hope that they were going to be able to deliver a Brock Lesnar quick explanation. And they didn't. It's just, they don't feel they need an explanation because Brock Lesnar is Brock Lesnar, and people don't care necessarily about, the story with Brock. He's a star, and so they feel that they don't need to create super, not even super, just basic reasoning and storytelling for Brock, because they feel his star power covers that, which I don't subscribe to that idea. I think it's an insult to my intelligence, and I do love Brock as a competitor. He is an absolute legend in the business, but I don't give them a pass on this. I can't even get a single explanation from Brock of why he attacked Cody or why he attacked Bobby Lashley a number of months ago. Like, why? Are we not deserving of that, or are you guys just too lazy to come up with a reason? I don't know. So I still do not give them a pass on this, but they feel, WWE, the collective WWE, at this point, I mean, we're not going to get one. There's no chance. After you get past like the first week or two and you get no explanation from the guy that did it, you aren't getting one, because at that point, then it just turns, it morphs from explanation and why, Brock, why, the whole heel turn phrase, right? Like whoever it turns heel, it's why, blank, why, they get to explain their actions. People want a reason and explanation. If you don't get that 1 to 2 weeks after the heel turn, you aren't getting one. And you're just supposed to figure it out for yourself or come up with your own theory, or, supposed to just take what the announcers and Cody Rhodes said at face value of their working theories as to why. I know I'm going off on this, but they always say to us, we tell stories. Okay, well then I'm going to hold you to your own standard. When you don't tell stories, I'm going to call you on it. And I'm calling you on it because this is a big match. This isn't just a Dolph Ziggler versus, Mustafa Ali match here. Like, we've got nothing from Brock. Why? I'd love to ask that question, but okay, I'm moving on, guys. Overall, effective segment, though. It did make you want to see the match, even though you don't know why the hell Brock did what he did. Okay. Let's see. We got Shinsuke Nakamura hitting Miz with a Kinshasa after appearing on Miz TV, and Miz offered a team with Nakamura, who then led the crowd in a chant of the guy with the tiny balls in Japanese before taking Miz out with a few hits. Now, the tiny balls thing for me has never been funny. It's funny when you're like you're in 8th grade or a freshman in high school. It's funny then, maybe. But after the age of 13, 14, is anybody really laughing at somebody saying, oh, you have tiny balls? What? I don't know. Like, what demo are you targeting with this? And sadly, sometimes the audience plays along enough that they keep this going. It's sad. I don't find it funny at all. I find it extremely sophomoric and eye-rolling. But if it's going to be The Miz versus Shinsuke, fine. They both have one another both are professionals. It'll be a nice little program that eventually Shinsuke wins and moves on. And I'd imagine Shinsuke is going to take part in a tournament of sorts for that World Heavyweight Championship. Again, we haven't been told how the World Heavyweight Championship is going to be determined as to who the champion is going to be. If it's not a tournament, I don't know how it can be anything else but a tournament. It's got to be. It can't just be it can't just be a single match. There's no other way to do this other than a tournament. I don't want to see a battle royal. Okay. It's got to be a tournament. So Shinsuke will be, I'd imagine, a part of that. But it's nice to see Shinsuke back. I mean, it is. He is an asset to the company, despite his shortcomings. And his shortcomings are really just a matter of communicating with his audience. Same thing that's plagued Asuka. It would be like somebody going to Japan, not understanding or using very limitedly the native tongue, right? You go to Japan and you still speak only English with like a lick or two of the native tongue, and you're gonna hit a ceiling, and it's not the best way to maximize your character. It's really not. But I think that's a massive thing that has plagued Asuka and Shinsuke. But other than that, I mean, they're amazing wrestlers. All right. The Judgment Day defeats L.W.O. and Damian pin Ray with South of Heaven. This match was it was good. It was a way to continue to put over specifically Damian Priest. It's nice to see him get the spotlight for a little while. It really is. And especially since he took a back seat for so long, especially during WrestleMania season, when it was everyone getting the spotlight except for him. Everyone had a match at WrestleMania except for him. So seeing him get a main event-ish spot with Bad Bunny in a match that I think is going to be very good it's good to see for Damian. I'm happy for Damian, and he plays a good heel. And Bad Bunny, as we all know, has proven himself to be able to perform in the ring, and good for him. But before this, though, I didn't even mention the promo. My God, is there a bigger heel in WWE than Rey Mysterio, or rather Dominic Mysterio? I don't know. People there's just something innately irritating about Dominic. I think he's because he's like a bully in high school that looks like a punk ass. But deep down he's a coward, and it can only run his mouth when he has backup. Imagine that most of us can relate to something like that. There's always that little punk ass in high school that thinks he's a tough guy, but only a tough guy when he's got guys around him, right? Power in numbers. And then he cowers when he's alone. So he's kind of like that, and he fits that little high school punk dude, doesn't he? He still looks like he's in high school. So I think it's conjuring up a lot of maybe bad memories for a lot of us. I don't know. But he fits and looks the role perfectly. And you just want to see someone beat the holy hell out of him. And he hasn't got that yet. I still am not satisfied with the Rey Mysterio beatdown, because it wasn't a beatdown. It was just, I'm going to beat you, son. And I just beat you in a match. There was no real, I know he took the belt, but there's no like bloody beatdown or vicious beat. I know you're not going to really do blood, unfortunately. Although if there was an argument to be made for blood to come back, Dominic's making a very strong case for it. But there hasn't been that vicious, absolute, dominating destruction of Dominic. It was just Ray, matter of fact, beating his son at Mania, which is a good moment, and it was a great story. But someone's got to come along that's got to drop him. I mean, I was thinking about this during the Dominic, him trying to get his words out and the crowd just not having it. And it was so much fun to watch. If this was back in like 98, 99, 2000, or even when, for example, when we had the early 2000s and it was Eric Bischoff as GM and Austin was the co-GM, having Stone Cold come out. Imagine the glass breaking as Dominic is getting nuclear heat and you see Stone Cold come out to confront the Judgment Day and go face to face with Dominic. Not to have a match with Dominic, okay? I'm not saying he should come out of retirement for a match. I mean, if it was 2000, right, 97 to 2002, you could argue that a match would happen, but I'm just saying for Austin to come out, it could be a WrestleMania type moment, and have him drop Dominic with a stunner. That would get a nuclear pop, I think. Just the complete bipolar reactions, right? The two complete dynamic opposals of one another. It would be so much fun as a confrontation to see. It's not impossible either. I know I'm a little bit fantasy booking here, but Austin's not done with the company. Do I think he's done with having wrestling matches? I don't know. I think if WrestleMania comes and goes, he may truly be done if he doesn't have a match then. But even if he doesn't have a match, I could see this being a segment. And it'd be a fun as hell segment. Would it not? Anyway. All right. So we got the Judgment Day getting the victory over the L.W.O. Rey Mysterio did tell Dom, I'm not running from anything. I was chosen to go to SmackDown. Makes sense. It's true. But Dominic is still playing up that he's running away and that he's still a deadbeat dad and all this stuff. Good stuff. But all right. Seth Rollins in the main event with Solo Sikoa. Before we get there, I want to talk about the Paul Heyman Seth Rollins segment. One that was, to me, I was watching every nuance of that. I was watching every little thing to see if they're trying to plant seeds, to see, is this something that they are doing right now that they're going to come back to? And I got a little bit encouraged because we had, again, it was a nice segment. Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins together in the ring hasn't happened in a long time. Roman and Seth hasn't happened in a long time. And having Seth call out Roman, saying that he is, avoiding Seth to give him that title shot that he deserves. And then Paul Heyman getting on the phone with Roman and telling Seth that you're pissing off the tribal chief and then threatening Paul Heyman. That, of course, brings out Solo Sikoa to make their match for the main event of that night. But it was a tease, and Seth has brought this up multiple times. It seems as if every time Seth talks about Roman or you think he's going to target Roman and actually go after it, something happens. Somebody gets in his way, or something gets in his way. In this case, the draft. They're not on the same brand. There's always something or some way that they don't end up getting into a full-fledged program, and I'm still hopeful that they'll get to it in the next year or so, somehow with a trade or, as I mentioned earlier in the show, Rumble or something. But this was a good segment to tease it, and Paul Heyman also plays his part so well and is able to keep Roman on your mind on the show without Roman having to actually physically be there. That's a heck of a talent. Like sometimes, even though you didn't see Roman, you almost felt him through Heyman, which is a hell of a trait. I mean, it's almost as if Roman was there because he's living through the wise man and giving the wise man direction. And you can kind of imagine what their conversation is. And so you're still thinking about Roman. He's in your mind, even though he's not physically there. And so it's a very little bit of it's kind of a sleight of hand trick that they're doing. And I've been fooled by it every single week, even though he hasn't been on TV in 4 weeks or more, 5 weeks, whatever it's been. So, and imagine when Roman comes back. I would imagine he's coming back immediately after Backlash. I think they said he's coming back on the Friday after. So we will see him on the May 12th edition, whatever that is, of SmackDown. So Roman is coming back, and he's going to have a lot to say, and it's going to be a very big day on SmackDown. It was also nice to hear Heyman actually put the fear in the minds of fans that Roman could win the World Heavyweight Championship and have 3 title belts on his waist. But I'm glad he addressed the fact that no, it can't happen because he's been drafted to SmackDown, and if wherever he's drafted, he has to stay per the draft rules. So that was nice to hear. That was a nice, kind of back to reality moment where you didn't have to think about, oh my God, how are they really going to put Roman here on 2 brands somehow? No, they're not. So, but it would be fun, I got to say, if Roman was involved in this imaginary yet not yet confirmed tournament for the World Heavyweight Championship. It's still possible he worms his way in somehow. I mean, we are in pro wrestling world. There is a way in which Roman, I'm sure, could manipulate himself into this tournament if there's an injury or if someone mysteriously is attacked backstage and it's revealed to be Roman, but somehow Paul Heyman negotiates that Roman is due a world title shot per contract. I don't know, like some type of legality that would allow Roman to be a part of this tournament would be fun. And you know what? I wouldn't even be mad if Roman won it. I wouldn't. Only for the fact, and solely and only for the fact I'd love to see what the other fans do. What the reaction would be if Roman did do that. And the balls it would take for Triple H to do this. I mean, I think there's a 99% chance that doesn't happen. But I don't know. It's a new day in WWE with Triple H running the place, right? So who knows? Again, I'm saying no to this, but boy, wouldn't you just think about that for a moment? Think about Roman Reigns winning, somehow worming his way in and winning the damn thing. Just, oh my God. It would be, I would laugh my ass off. I would, eventually I'd be super annoyed by it, but in the initial run of it, I would laugh and applaud Triple H for the sheer balls it would take to do that. I mean, you finally introduce a belt that people think is going to be for somebody that's going to be there on a weekly basis. It's going to be a babyface. And not only is it not a babyface, it's the guy that's been holding the 2 championship belts hostage for 1,000 days. So like, it would be just brilliant. It would be brilliant. And it's funny that they actually played that up a little bit on Raw with Paul Heyman, but then saying he couldn't do it because of the draft rules. So I don't know. I think, again, about a 1% chance that this happens somehow. All right. So what else happened here? Oh, the Raw main event. Again, Solo versus Seth was exactly what you'd imagine it was going to be. It wasn't long. It was, I think, 7 minutes, 6 minutes. It wasn't, again, relatively quick. And you look at this and go, neither man can afford to lose. Neither. Seth is on his way to a potential World Heavyweight Championship victory and is a front runner. And you have Solo, whose only defeat is against Cody Rhodes the week before WrestleMania, or the week of WrestleMania. I think it was on Monday Night Raw prior to WrestleMania. So Solo needs to be protected. Solo is on the rise without even saying a word. It's amazing. So neither man can afford a clean loss. No. So it was kind of a no-sum game here, and you knew it had to be hanky-panky. Somebody gets disqualified, and that's exactly what happened here because of the Usos. So the Usos caused the DQ, and then it was Kevin Owens and Sami out to break it up at the very last 30 seconds of the show. It seemed a bit rushed at the end. I think they didn't time things well. I think they were off by a couple of minutes. That's my guess, because everything seemed super rushed. I remember there was 40 seconds left of Raw, and I'm like, there's no finish to this match. How is this match not over? What the hell are they going to do? And it seemed a little bit rushed at the end. I think just time. It's a matter of just the timing was a little bit off. So if someone attended live or heard what happened after, I'd be very interested to hear what happened after the cameras went off the air. And I would imagine there was probably stunners dished out by Kevin, a haluva kick probably, right? But it was also a chaotic way to end. So if it was by design, then it's a little more realistic, because everything doesn't have to end nice and clean just because it's 11 o'clock at night. It shouldn't happen that way. Things should sometimes overlap where the cameras are still rolling, but you got to cut off the show because that's when their time slot ends. And so if that was by design, then I'm cool with it. If it wasn't, I'm also cool with it, because it was also an inadvertent way to create chaos to end the show. Made you interested to see the next one. So I didn't have any issue with this. And Solo versus Seth, that felt like a big match, didn't it? It just felt really big because it was two worlds here that haven't collided before. and especially the larger world that Solo represents of the bloodline, even bigger of a match. And it felt massive. Those two could be a main event of a pay-per-view. And Solo could be a world heavyweight title contender. Obviously, it's not going to happen with Solo going to SmackDown, but he feels of that caliber. And Solo is just, as I said earlier, a future world champion, whatever that means, Universal, WWE, World Heavyweight, I don't know, whatever. He is an absolute future world champion, maybe as soon as early next year, possibly. I mean, you have WrestleMania, of course. So maybe in a year, how about this? In a year, we can start talking about a potential run with Solo Sikoa, because there's a lot of story left to tell with Roman and those who have been drafted to SmackDown that he can compete with, namely Bobby Lashley. That's going to be a lot of fun, right? AJ Styles could be another really kind of quick, fun program with Roman. So, hey, there's still a lot left on the Roman tread, and we're getting past that 1,000 days very soon. So we can all, after that, take a sigh and look around and go, all right, we've finished. We've got past the finish line, the invisible finish line that mysteriously just keeps backing up further and further. Now that they've gotten their 1,000 days, they got what they wanted, let's look around. Who could do this, right? Then we can start talking seriously. Could somebody do this at the O2 Arena for Money in the Bank? Could somebody do this at SummerSlam? Could somebody do this at Survivor Series or Rumble? Or do we have to wait till WrestleMania 40 in Philly? So, again, I know all roads seem to lead to Roman here. All of my discussion seems to lead to Roman. Eventually, our world will not revolve around Roman. And you know what? With the World Heavyweight Championship, the attention is going to be divided, and it should be at this point. You know, we can't forever have Roman just be the absentee champion. We get it, right? Like, eventually, it reaches a point of, diminishing returns, where like fans are going, "All right, we get it, man. We get it. He's an absentee champion. People are annoyed with his schedule, and he competes when he wants to, and like we get that heel, we get that part of the heel heat. Like, let's move on to something different." And they've moved on to what fans have been asking for. And I think this is going to be a big deal for Raw. Big deal. All right. So what else happened on Raw? I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, we did get the Rhea Ripley, Dominic, and Damian Priest. As I mentioned, it was a mixed tag match. And the reason I'm bringing this up is not because the Judgment Day won, as I mentioned earlier, but with Rhea Ripley involved and her putting her hands on Rey. I mean, it's to be expected. It's to be expected. I don't know. I'm not even going to go there. But overall, guys, a good edition of Raw. I think it moved things forward nicely. The draft helped make things feel broken up, and seeing the legends was a lot of fun. And it made you now that we can look at the rosters, now that we can sit back and we can look at what they had been creating backstage, it's going to be fun to think about the potential matchups, barring any trades, any hanky-panky of crossovers with no explanations, all that crap. If the worlds stay separate, as they should, what matchups can we now look at? What potential NXT matchups with the established talent on Raw and SmackDown could we think about? It's now time to start fantasy booking. And it's time to start thinking about, if you're WWE and you created these two rosters, what matchups did I have in mind that could main event WrestleMania? Because that's what they should be thinking about when they create these. And we can all fantasy book. It's now time to play the part of fans and fantasy book. So, all right, well, that'll do it for me for the Monday Night Raw review, guys. But don't forget, tomorrow's the mailbag. Mr. and Mrs. Casual Wrestling Fan may or may not be able to take part tomorrow. If they don't, then they will be back in short order. If they don't, then I will be able to pick up the emails. So you can still address them to Mr. and Mrs. Casual Wrestling Fan. They just got a lot going on right now. They're still definitely a part of the show and the family here. They just have a lot of stuff going on. And, if they're able to do it, they of course will. If they don't, then I will gladly pick up the email portion of the mailbag. You guys can send your emails in to us at mailbag@wwepodcast.com, or you can call us. That number is in the description notes of all the mailbag shows. And don't forget also, since it's a pay-per-view week, it's a good time to go VIP on our website at wwepodcast.com and get everything ad-free. And also check out our merch. Our merch store is now live. There's a big merch store button on our website if you want to check that out. And get yourself a t-shirt or a mug or a hat or whatever. And if you do, send it to me in email or tweet me at wrestling_audio, and I will tweet it out. I'll retweet you. I'll put you on blast. I think that'd be a cool thing to do. See somebody with your merch. It's kind of weird to think about. Like, I feel like, it's just like I'm some dude just sitting here talking about wrestling, and I somehow have a merch store if people actually buy it. And I don't know. So if you do end up purchasing a piece of our merch, I will put you on blast, and a little bit of an incentive too, right? But also, if you want to join us on Patreon, you can do that, because you'll be able to be a part of the wrestling community on Patreon for the Backlash event this Saturday, and have a little chat room on Discord that you can talk with all the other patrons about the live results, interact, talk wrestling, debate. It's a fun place to be. I do check in from time to time. I know I'm a ghost on there, but I do pop in. I popped in last night to see what you guys were talking about for Raw, and it's a fun community. You guys have made it very entertaining there on Discord. So I'd recommend, if you want to be a part of that, or just be going ad free. If you don't want to be a part of the Discord, you don't have to be, but it's a great way to go ad free and listen without any interruptions. And I recommend you do that, as well as on Apple Podcasts. If you want to just use your native Apple Podcast app, that's available to you as well. So again, a lot of audio coming to you guys this week, as it is a pay-per-view week. So tomorrow's the mailbag. Thursday, maybe I'll do the preview and prediction show then. I'll have to see, but maybe I'll do it then, because Friday is SmackDown and then Saturday is the event. So probably on Thursday, I'll have my official preview and prediction show for Backlash. And then there's audio like every single day this week, guys. We're not going to have a day without audio from this show, so you're going to be sick of us. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. As always, take care. I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to wwepodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.